Oh, I don't know what's happened to my camera. My poor little camera. Hello, everybody. I'm here. I am here, though. Come on. There we go. Alright, not sure what happened there, but hello! Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming by. I am gonna be doing some more hackmud tonight. Started a little bit earlier, because I'm gonna try and stop a little closer to the scheduled stop time tonight at 11:30, just because I've got a pretty bad headache today. Man, these storms, just non-stop thunderstorms from this heat dome up here in Canada that we're having, so it's just kind of wearing me down a bit. But there's still lots of time to play around with some hackmud today. So I had some bugs still that I was working on trying to get my automation. So I was trying to get my automation. We'll bring that up here for a sec. I was trying to get my automation to the point where I could just run it totally hands off. So a couple days during the week, this week, while I was working, I just kind of fired it up on my second monitor and then let the automation run. But I kept finding some issues with it, especially the tier 2 stuff. So that led to me kind of hunting some bugs down just here and there, not enough to really necessitate a whole stream, but there were a couple changes that I made, a couple to-dos that we left off, I think, with at the end of last stream that I have addressed. So one of the changes was I couldn't seem to change my settings on the fly. That was a pretty small thing that I got changed. What was the other thing that I got? There were a couple changes around making sure that the... Where is the... There it is. So that the hardline doesn't break, like going over and over and over again when we hit a lock that we can't solve. So that was another change that I made, was to look out for those. Here we go, right here. These are the three locks that I cannot solve. So we have our warning here for, I mean, I guess that one doesn't count. So account NT I can mostly solve. Lockbox occasionally I'll run into keys that I don't have, though I have managed to find some keys through the farming that I did have going. I even found a blue key V2, which was kind of funny to see. And then data check, we had an issue with, actually encountered on a tier 2 NPC, a data check that was using asked for a tier 3 question. Hey Raven, how's it going? Thanks for coming by. How you doing? Yeah, so the data check, I actually found one in the wild that asked a V3 question, and I don't have any of the V3 answers, so I actually saw that come up in the actual automation run as well. So yeah, I think like this is doing pretty good. And I really think now that it comes down to making sure that the rest of my scripts are very stable, especially the scraping. I found a couple bugs in my scraping script, which is surprising, but just like calling it over and over and over and over and over and over again just eventually exposed some issues with it. You're doing awesome. That's great to hear. I'm glad to hear that. How goes the things? Well, many of the things are going pretty good. I found another account NT edge case. I knew I spoke too soon when I said I thought I had it 100% solved. So I found a new account NT behavior new to me, and I actually think that I found the new behavior because of my automation. So the new behavior that I saw from account NT is it asks you for, transactions between date A and date B, except it actually asked me the same date and time for both ranges, like for both dates, and that's something that I hadn't anticipated before. I think my automation runs so quickly that now I can actually get like 4 or 5 transactions that take place within 1 minute, which is something that just I never would have had a transaction history that would have resulted. I never would have had a scenario that resulted in a transaction history like that before I had my automation running. So now that I have my automation kind of really going at pace, it led me to that. So it wasn't too hard to fix, really. I think all I had to do... I have all this code for detecting like the ranges. So like from 0 seconds to 59 seconds on the first minute and 0 to 59 on the second minute. And then I have like floating ranges to try to like... I do a lot of dynamic calculations for the account NTs because it can be like sloshy. You're still stuck trying to figure out lockets. What part of lockets are you stuck on? Yeah, the lockets, like the algorithm you need for the locket is pretty straightforward. The trick I found was trying to find all the keys, right? You only need the tier 1 and 2 keys, I think. Just the key names. You don't even need the actual keys. This looks insane. It's really just it's funny because it is kind of insane. Locket is the newest lock you've come across, so you don't know how to solve it. Well, if you want any help, feel free to ask. I won't spoil anything for you, though. The you know, the easies and the colors? Yeah. Well, you'll get it then. It sounds like you're on track, Raven, so I believe in you. I'm sure you'll get there. It's pretty straightforward, so once you figure it out, you'll have it. The account NT is definitely the most code out of all of the locks, like between tier 1 and 2. And it just keeps growing as I find more and more edge cases. Is it something you can figure out in-game, or should you just Google it? I personally wouldn't Google it. I haven't Googled anything for solving locks, like the actual what you need to know about the lock itself. I have Googled stuff like how to do certain things in JavaScript and stuff, but you should be capable of getting all the information you need out of the game. Yeah. I would say experiment. So find a lock. Are you Raven, have you heard of beta lock sim? So if you use the beta lock sim, we'll do that here in chat. So beta lock sim, you can use this, and it can simulate a lock, so you don't have to keep going in and out of hard lines and finding NPCs that have the right lock and all that stuff. You've seen that script come up, and yeah. So I've used that. It's safe to use. Well, safe. It won't do anything to you. It might take stats from you, but it's otherwise safe to use as a lock simulator. So you can give it like lock it, and then you can treat it like you would any NPC location that you're trying to breach, but you can take your time because you don't have to worry about the hardline countdown. And you don't have to worry about lucking out and getting one. You can just make a lock that just is lock it. You use it like this. Beta lock sim, and then you'll do locks, and you'll give it an array, and in here you'll do lock it. That's it. And then when we go and call it without any parameters, after it says simulation created, it simulates a lock. Pretty simple, yeah. So you can just manually play with that simulator once you have it up, and then you can maybe figure something out. So yeah, I would just experiment. It has something to do with locks, right? Locks. So if you need any hints or help, you can just ask. Otherwise, I think you can do it, Raven. You've got the other locks done in T1, so this seems like something you should be able to do, no problem. You'll figure it out. The account NT stuff is really just messy because you have to calculate all of these. It's very flexible. It gives you like 2 dates, but there's flexibility in those dates, and as I found out later, sometimes the dates it gives you aren't perfectly accurate either, so you might have to do like the minute before or after, even the day before or after. So there's a lot of logic in here that's not just like calculate the sum of transactions between here and here. It's like you do that, but if the answer doesn't work, you have to like, okay, let's try doing from here to just past or just before, and there's like all these loops that does like this flexible range calculation stuff. So it's just really messy. But I keep coming back. I keep finding new account NT questions that make me have to come back here and find more stuff, but that's just how it is. Anyway, so it's pretty stable though for now. Actually, well, what did we have on the docket? I guess I'm not like on a schedule. I don't have to do anything particular. I want to get my automation going, but something I'm going to run into probably once I start increasing my automation. So my automation is now 2 tier 1 users and 2 tier 2 users. And I am going to probably get pretty close to, let's check the balance in my bank. Yeah, so I'm almost $750 million GC. So I'm gonna get to the point probably fairly soon, especially if I leave the automation running, where I'm going to run out of room for GC in my bank user. And I'm not prepared to go up to tier 3, especially not on my bank user. So I think one of the things that I wanted to look at was how to spread GC across so I can have essentially a multi-user bank. Now, the problem is I don't know how to do that. So maybe we should come up with a document here. So if I want a multi-user bank, what does it need to be able to do? So multi-user bank has to be able to there will be a central bank or central branch. Maybe I just call them branches. So there's the central branch, which is going to be responsible for this is going to be probably where the main script lives here. Has to be aware of all the other branches. Actually, the branches is probably going to make me a little confused. Central branch user, all the other bank users, has to be aware of them. So it has to have an awareness of them. It has to be able to know their balances. Has to be able to retrieve, I should say withdraw, GC from the other banks, bank users. What else? Has to be able to know what their balance is, has to be able to withdraw GC from them. Sending is, I mean, I can write it here. Send to others is easy because we can do accounts X for GC2. I guess it has to be able to determine when it needs to send and withdraw. Send to or withdraw from other banks. So that's important because it's not just like taking all the GC and sending it to another bank. It has to know when it needs to send. So does it send when it hits cap? Does it send when it's at half cap? Like, when does it decide to do that sending? But not only that, I think the question is, does it do all of this? Does it do all of... make all of these decisions on a transaction or a timer? So this is where we might come up into a bot brain. I haven't touched bot brains yet. I understand the basic principle is it's an upgrade that you load and it runs on a regular interval automatically, even if you're not logged in. It runs a specific script called bot_brain. So you have to have a script called bot_brain, and it costs GC every time the script runs. So you also need to have quite an amount of GC built up. So let's go on the market and see like what these bot brains look like. So name bot brain. I might as well look at the V2 ones. Flux, hey Flux, how's it going? How you doing? Bot brain V1s. Bot brain. Am I typoing the bot brain? I thought that's what it was. It's cronbot. Ah, that's why. Cronbot V1 and V2. Thank you, Flux. So let's look at the ones like Rarity 2. 500k is not too bad. Let's take a look at what these look like here. So this one will run every 1200 seconds. So that would be 20 minutes, I guess. Every 20 minutes, 1200 seconds. 600 seconds would be 10 minutes. And it costs 48k GC to run, which is insignificant, especially if I'm going to be running it off my bank user. That's not a problem. So yeah, that's an option. I'm not sure if that's what we're going to end up with. So I think the main challenges here are going to be knowing the balances of the other bank users and being able to take money from them, take GC from them. So potentially I could have each bank sub-user, I guess, could have a script that the bank user could be whitelisted on, and it could call in and say, give me your balance, or it could call in and say, give me this amount of GC. The only problem with that is that no, you know what? I don't actually think that's going to be a problem. I was going to say that's going to be a lot of script calls, but like my Unicrack script does a ton, way more calls. It's not, I don't think making like, even if I made 10 calls to 10 sub banks, that wouldn't really be a problem. Okay. So this might not be too bad to do. I think a lot of it is just going to be the logic. Certainly. Oh, there's a question here too. Do I want to evenly distribute the GC or use the bank users as overflow? I think that's the question. Whoop, don't need to save that. Bot brains are fun, Flux. You still use V1 crons because they're cheap. Across a large number of users, all your bots send money to each other and update certain stats in the database. So you have a ton of them. Why are you like, what do you use them for, Flux? You're sending money to each other and updating stats. Do you mind sharing what you're sending the money for? Like, are you doing something similar, like a distribution of money? Or if it's an OPSEC thing, then you don't have to expose your OPSEC stuff to me. I haven't used one because, like, I could. Yeah, it's interesting because my bank users, my sub banks, are not really going to be doing anything. See, that's the thing, right? It doesn't seem right to have a user that does nothing. Like, it seems like a bit of a waste to have a bank user that sits here with hard lines and upgrade space doing nothing but holding GC. But if I have them doing breaching, then it's more likely it'll reveal the location. So, I also want to be able to, if my bank user becomes compromised, I'm probably going to want to destroy it and retire it and then create a replacement. I think I keep hitting my mic, sorry. I want to be able to destroy it and then create a replacement so that the location refreshes. So Flux, you have part of it's a defense strategy, because what happens if someone takes all your GC, the next time your cronbot tries to run, it will unload. By having your bots send each other money, they have a chance of stopping the upgrade from unloading. It also gradually distributes GC across users to reduce the damage of any one of them getting breached. So by having your bots send each other money, they have a chance of stopping the upgrade from unloading. I have that in my plan too, is like PvP defense tactics. But, because certainly to defend yourself, you have to use a bot brain. Or some kind of out-of-process automation that just cycles through your users and checks their breach status. I haven't quite got there yet for defense. Certainly it could happen though, like someone could breach my bank at any point in time. I think my main motivation for having my out-of-process automation going in the first place is so that if I get breached, I can just start the automation and walk away and recover my GC. So this would be the first time that I have two users actually interacting with each other, because right now I have a library user, and yeah, my other users are running the library script, but it's more just like a script repository. This will be the first time that they're actually like doing something. So I'm not sure. I don't think I have any users left actually. So the question is, am I buying another user? I think I might. I think I might buy another user. What's store list here? Store list slots. I have 2,000 bits. The 5-pack starts looking like a pretty good deal, doesn't it? It does, right? It absolutely does. So I have to. I think I have to. I'm going to at some point or another, so I might as well just do it now. Store by 1. Insufficient bits. Oh, right. I have to buy bits. I need the 20,000 bits. So I have to store by 3. It's prompting for something here. We are not going to show this. Make sure I didn't dox anything here. No, just the subtotal. Okay. So we're going to add funds. Add funds. I agree. Turn to my transaction. Okay, so there's my bits. And then we will do storeless slots here, and we'll buy 1, which is 5 user slots. Okay, so I should have 12 user slots now. Okay, so let's create, whoops, let's create a user, Zybonk. I don't know. Let's give me another sub bank user. So we'll do, we'll tier them up here. I've been watching this thing fly through automation so frequently that I just sat there for a second waiting for it to do it itself. I was like, oh wait, I have to do this manually. Sys.migrate. Confirm true. Zybonk. That's right, Flux. Bonk. Alright. So chats.leave. That's the first thing I do. Then then I have to add this to my whitelist. Zybonk. At some point, I'm going to have users that don't follow this standard naming convention. At some point. Up utils. I think I saved it. Well, so just in case. Okay. Wait, what? How did I lose 4 characters by saving? That's weird. This, do you see this? It went to 1707, 09, 09, 09, 07. It's non-deterministic minifying. That's weird. That's weird. I wonder what's going on there. I wonder if Samuel knows that. Non-deterministic minifying. Okay, anyway, there it is. So I should be able to do Zybonk, do Zybank.atm and withdraw 1 million GC, and then sysinit. Okay, I don't need to be tier 2 yet until I figure this out. I guess I might as well though, because it's not going to be much of a bank at 20 million GC, right? So we do 10 million GC and then sysinit again. Okay. Okay. Now I need locks before I start putting money on it. Go look at this lock stack that I have. So, market. Actually, I don't really need the lock stack yet. I don't think I need that yet. Let's do the fun stuff first. There are some of these macros that I want to create though that'll make this easier. So I want the upgrades. I want load and unload. Actually, I want reorder as well. And info probably. Okay, that's probably okay. Oh, because I'm going to need script slots probably, right? Well, no, I'll only need one script slot, but it will have to be public. And I'll need more characters, I think. So what is this script going to do? Let's think about that for a second. So let's add a new folder here for Zybonk. And Zybonk is going to be called, the script here will be, I don't know, like bank branch .js. I probably need a lot of this stuff. I'll need balance and withdraw. Actually, it almost seems like it'll be a copy of the ATM script. So maybe it's just going to be ATM. My issue with that though is I don't want to interact. I don't want my other users interacting with my branches necessarily, because that could screw things up. It kind of needs to be, yeah, because the actual ATM script that lives in Zybank and my primary bank user is going to be extended to handle all this balancing logic. But the branch script is going to end up looking exactly like this. So I'm going to just copy this whole thing in here. I think the only difference is well, I guess I could let anyone on my whitelist call it. I don't think that's necessarily a problem. Okay. Is that it? Is that easy? How many characters is it? 451. Oh yeah. Because I kept my ATM script small enough so I didn't need any character. So all I need is a public script slot. So let's go get one. What kind of public script slots do I have on this? I have one rarity 0 script, public script v1. Yeah, I don't see why I would need anything different. Market.browse. Public script v1. Let's find the cheapest one. They're all the same price. Do I have MB? Yeah, nice. I don't want to load it though. Unload 10 and send Zybonk 10. Should just be load 0. And then I should be able to up bank branch shift public. Okay. So I have a bank and I have a branch. Central bank and a branch. Now I have to go back to the main bank, and now we have to start screwing around with this script, which means I'm going to need more characters for sure. So I should just go grab a decent sized character for now. Market.browse name. Actually, I think I can just do chars because I think that's the property. Chars, and then I can do greater than 1500, 1400. Those are 100 million. That's a little too steep. A billion? Yeah, right. So 1200. What about 1250? What about 1270? 1275. Ah. Okay, so we'll mark it by this one and this one. Okay. So we got 2 char count v2s. That brings me up to 3044. That should be enough. That should be enough. It's not going to be that big. This actually might be overkill, thinking about it. One sec. Dry throat. This weather doing weird stuff to my body. Okay. So, ATM script here. So, I guess what we have to do is we have to think. I'm going to close these for now. To think a little bit about the logic here that we want to use. The main question here. Do I want to evenly distribute the GC, or do I want to use the branches? I guess I should just say branches. From the branches. I keep doing that. Central user. I have a Control S fixation. I constantly hit Control S, so when I don't want to save the file, actually, I could probably just move this into the ATM script, because this is probably where we're going to be doing a lot of this work anyway, so. There, that's good enough. And then we can just close that. Okay. So Flux, you have bot brains kind of evenly distributing GC around. I'm not sure that would, yeah, I mean, like, I could do that, and then I don't necessarily have. Here's the thing. If I don't have a master bank, do I want a central user? Do I want a central user? Just got to think about two things, the pros and cons here. The pros are that I just need kind of one user with one script, and they can just kind of manage all of the branches. But the con is that I have a single point of failure. If something happens, like it gets breached or the script breaks or something like that, the whole thing goes down. Flux, you have kind of a hybrid system. Your bank account has a minimum balance and it won't send money to other bots unless it's over that amount. So if all of your banks are over that minimum amount, are they just all constantly sending money away and then back to each other and stuff like that because they're always over their minimums? Is that what ends up happening? It's a constant flow of arbitrary transactions. Interesting. How do you stop any particular bank user from having too large of a proportion of the total amount at one time? Two extra benefits. Helps with account NT and obfuscates your transactions to make it harder to tell where the most of the money is going. How does it help with account NT though? Because account NT would be the user doing the breaching, right? How do you know how much to send, I guess is the question. Because I think having I think you're onto the... I should say that I think that I am almost convinced to go with something that, like what you have, Flux. Because I think having a distributed net with no central bank is the best way to do it. Because that way, if I want to add more capacity to my bank, I just have to add another user into that net. But I don't know how to, like, I can't think of how best to balance. You're essentially doing load distribution, right? It's essentially load distribution, except with GC. But even then, you usually have a load controller. You wouldn't have a bunch of peers determining load between themselves, I don't think. I'm not familiar with load distribution networks, though. I just know kind of how they work. I'm worried if I go down the wrong path too far here, I'll shoot myself, and I'll, like, in the foot over it, and I'll have to revamp a huge part of it, and I don't want to do that if I don't have to. The amount of money you send between users is the total balance of all the users divided by the total number of users connected. Balance of all users currently connected in the net, I'm guessing, right? Where do you maintain that list of users connected? Do they check in with everybody? Like, how do they keep track of each other? You don't have a central, like, distribution server, like a central management node or anything like that? It's all perfectly distributed? Because that sounds really sophisticated if that's the case. And I'll have to tip my hat. Total balance of all users connected. So the question becomes, How do you keep track? So central users or distributed banknet, I guess. I'm leaning toward distributed banknet. So with a distributed banknet, each node needs to know about the other nodes, at least who they are. Flux, your banknet has an awareness of how much cash there is in the whole net, which also makes sense, right? Because you need to know how to divide it evenly. So every time one of your bot brain scripts runs, it calls a central script that saves their balance along with the current date. So it's their punch card, so they're time stamping it. It then checks the punch card for every user. If it's been over 30 minutes, it gets marked as offline. Oh, so you do have a central script, but your central script, so your central script is not part of your banknet though. Each bot should run at an interval of about 30 minutes or less. Okay. Yeah, because I saw like the cron bot scripts I was looking at, they were V2s, but they were just under 20 minutes, so that makes sense. So my central management, banknet management, does not need to be a bank user itself. It could be my library user. It could be my library user. So my library user, which is central, has a public script that my banknet users check into. Yeah, all the calls on your lib. Yeah. So, central management node would be Xylib for me. It would can keep track of the users, their activity status, keep track. Use the DB to keep track of the user's activity status, balance, and balances, I guess. So how do you withdraw money from your banknet? Because you would need all the nodes to send you the pieces. Like if you had 5 nodes, you wanted 5 million GC, you would need each bot to send you 1 million. But how do you send that instruction to them to do that? You have another public script on each node aside from the bot brain. So the bot brain doesn't need to be public, right? Bot brain is private. Then you have a public script that you would have the central distributor say, give me this much, and then you would divide that amount by the number of nodes in your bank net, and then send those instructions to each user saying, send this amount, this fractional amount, to the user that asked for it. And then you would get 10 transactions from 10 bank nodes that would total up to the amount that you need. I like that. That sounds cool. That sounds sophisticated. So each node would need a bot brain that checks in with the manager. Next plan is to have all your brain users have a public script with X for GC from owner, so your central bank can call those one at a time, as many as needed to fulfill the withdrawal request. So instead of having them send it, so I was thinking, so you would have your central user go and get all of the money for you and then send it to you in one transaction, versus what I was talking about before, which is just sending a request to the bots, and the bots all send you their fractions directly, bypassing the manager. I don't know if there are pros and cons to each of those options. Each node would need a bot brain. So each node needs a bot brain that checks in with the manager. Each node would need a public script that public script that sends each node needs to know about the other nodes. Each node would need a bot brain that checks in with the manager. Each node needs a public script that sends GC when asked. I guess each node does not need a public script to receive. So, okay. So my library user is going to end up having the bank manager script. So do I shove it in utils, since I already have that, and save myself a public script slot? I have 4 public script slots, and I have 4 public scripts. So it would make more sense to add it to my utils script. So utils would have another tool called bank, I guess. Whoops. So there's 2 contexts to call the bank. Do I really want this in my utils? This script is becoming like really long because it's doing a lot of stuff at once, but well, it doesn't really matter. I can figure that out later. So I'll have a bank tool, and the bank tool will have see, by doing it this way though, I'm going to lose the flexibility that I had with ATM script, where if I have no parameters, it just deposits everything just to like quickly do a large deposit. I could do that here too, I guess. It doesn't really matter because I'm not really going to be doing that too often, I guess. Oh man, I'm really stuck on this. I have a lot of room. Frig. I'd have to load another public script slot. I guess this is just depends on what I want to do here. So I have public script slots. That's 2 slots. Can I replace one of these with a 3? There's one for 500K. Flux, you still have quick deposit functionality for your central bank account, which automatically distributes each time the bot brain runs. So your central bank account also has a bot brain? Does it need one though? So your central, see, I want to have my central bank not be part of the bank. I want my library user because I want my library user to never have any GC on it because it has no locks. So I want it to just be script triggered, no bot brain. So I think my bank net may differ from yours slightly in that way. Your lib user and your central bank are separate? Yeah, I'm going to keep mine the same, I think. Because this way I can have... this way my library user... Let me think for a second. The library user is going to host the script. So Flux, why did you make your lib and your central bank separate users? Did you have a specific reason that you did that? So I'm going to make an ATM. I'm going to make just a bank script here. Zylib.bank, I'm going to call it. Instead of having a bank util. And all of these actions are going to be more complicated. So each node. Okay, let's think about this. So I need to have like a bank branch, bank bot. If a.action equals bank bot, so a bank bot will log in, and what it will say is how much GC it has. It'll call in. It'll say how much GC it has. It's mostly carried over from when you only had 2 users. Okay. So there's not a specific reason. So I gotta think about this. I gotta think about this from a security point of view. Locations do not show up in transaction history. They only show up in access logs. So none of my bank bots will be no, you know what? This is good. This is good because I think I can extend this to key storage as well. If I have the central management on my library user, because that's primarily where all my keys are, I think this is good because I could actually start using if my library user is aware of who all of the bank bots are, it can also send and receive and pull them for their keys in storage. So I could have this big distributed net of GC and keys. I think this is what I want to do. Okay. So, going down this path, we have a bank bot. So I don't want I don't want a central user. Instead I have a central manager. Actually, some of this is right. You know what? I'm not going to change my notes yet. So the bank bot needs to check in. I have an action. If it's bank bot, I have to have a database. The database is going to be called I guess it's going to be called bank bot. Bank bots. What do I need to store here? I need to store a timestamp. Let BB equal timestamp. Do we camel case? Or lowercase? I'm going to camel case. Timestamp, and then this will be date.now, right? And then it'll have a balance, which will be balance of owner. No, balance, which is R. Balance of caller. which is R. It'll upsert bank bots. This needs a username as well. All the bank bots have to come out of the database. I want banknet to equal. That's weird. Why did it turn to a function? Oh, because the next line is a function. Oh, this should be what was it? Export default. So it'll be it'll be this, except it'll be find with an ID dot first, and then I'll do if banknet equals null. This will be for the first time, or if I have to reset. Hey, Jorstar, how's it going? Welcome in, bud. Don't I need a script to access the funds on every bank storage user if I want to do it this way? Yes. The answer to that question is yes. So each one of my bank bots will have a bot, like a cron bot on it, that will pull in to my library user to keep the balances up to date in the database. And then they will all each have a small public script that the library user can go to say, give me this fraction of the total withdrawal request. So it can say the total amount in my bank net is 10 million GC, and I have 4 bots and I want 4 million. So I'll go and pull 1 million or a quarter of the total amount from each user using their public scripts, pull it into the library user, and then send it to the user who's requesting the money in a single transaction. That's the plan. I think it's like it's inspired by what Flux has, but it's a slightly different take on what Flux has. Why wouldn't I just use the bot brains to equalize-ish the balance across my bots? Well, I think it's... So, just use a single user to transfer to and from. I think because the problem is then I could have room for, say, 10 billion GC in my botnet, but that's because I have 5 bot users with 2 billion, so I can't push 3 billion GC to one of those users, right? Because they don't have enough to store just that. So I can't like send all of it to one and then allow it to distribute. I have to chop it up and then send them to make sure that they all actually have room for that destination amount. Alternatively, they could also be like 100,000 GC away from their cap. I can't send any of them the last 400,000, right? You have to break it up and send it to all 4. Unless there's a different way. There might be a different way to do it. I'm not sure. I haven't gotten very far into this, so this might not turn out to be the right direction as we start getting into it, but you'd plan the net for tier 4, honestly? Well, I mean, like, I'm going to. Tier 4 is the max save int. You mean like the GC is max int? Is that what you're talking about? On tier 4? Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. But I need the bot. I need the bank net now, though, because my bank user is becoming full. So, from automation. So I do need it before tier 4. I need someone to put all this stuff. Eventually, I'm going to get to the point where I actually all my bank net, but overall my exfers aren't usually super big. No, but yeah, like I'm not going to have like a 1 billion transfer right now. That's true. It will become a problem, though, as they approach their cap, right? Because as I approach the total amount in my bank, the amount that each bot user can bear receiving becomes smaller and smaller and smaller, till like there's room for 10,000 on each user, and I can't send 20,000 onto my botnet at all. So it will reduce, that problem will become more apparent as I start to fill up my bank net. Well, I need this database thing. I need the database structure regardless of how we do the transferring. So if the bank net is null, if it's not equal to null, hold on, bank net db banknet is what we'll call this one. If db banknet is not equal to null, a db banknet and a banknet. Okay, if db banknet, well, this is going to be an array of objects, or an object of objects. What makes more sense, to have an array of objects or a big object? No, I want a big object because that way I can search by key. Because I want to be able to search by a user and get their usernames. So banknet, if it's not equal to null, we're going to make it equal to dbbanknet.v, which is going to be the value in there. I guess I don't need these. Otherwise nothing. So I have a banknet now, and here banknet is going to, I want to do a what do I want? This dot caller. So if we'll do let bb, which is the bank bot, equal banknet caller this. If bb, I think I do if not bb. Flux, you have your db object using the context caller as the key containing another object with a punch card. Yes, that's exactly what I was doing here, yeah. I'm going to have a big object that has an object for each one. Still using short var names, huh? All right. You're right. You're 100% right. I should be using longer names because I am just going to confuse myself. I did notice though, the minifier does not minify your function names. So your function names, you have to minify them yourself. So I have been getting into the habit of labeling them with what they're actually called, so that I save on those characters. Or I could do that crazy thing that Smork did where you have a pointer to your function. I guess I could do let short this equal this, I think. Something like that. Send. I don't know if that's the terminology I use, but that might also get around the minifier. I'm not going to do that right now though. I'm going to put a to do to do that. To do use let send equal un function. Try that instead. Let name this. Yeah. Something got mad at me. Lexical declaration cannot appear in a single line context. Single statement context. Line 44. Oh yeah, I haven't gotten there yet. Chill out, HSE. Okay, so if I don't have an entry in my bank bot, then I'm going to add one. Bank bot is going to equal this new object that I'm talking about right here. At least it doesn't crash on you like HSM. Yeah, exactly. That's very nice. Honestly, that was one of the main motivators for moving, and I'm very glad that you convinced me, harassed me to switch, because it's you're 100% right, and I shouldn't have procrastinated for as long as I did. It is very helpful, and it was super easy to set up. There wasn't really much to it. I should have conceded earlier. Okay, so if I don't have an entry here, I'm going to create an entry. That should be the object's property, right? That seems okay. Then I am going to, actually no, I think I just want to do this regardless. I don't think I need that part, because this will either add it let's do that. So this will create the object that has the timestamp and the balance for the bot. Getting a single script to every user is very easy now too. Yeah, I haven't had to do that yet. I'm probably going to have to do that for my banknet. I'm going to want to just have one script that I can just push to all of them, and I only up it on my users that are actually part of the banknet. So if I set this object equal to the timestamp and the balance, and then I say the banknet at this value is this, it will create this property if it doesn't exist. Otherwise, it'll replace the value of that property. I think that's how it works in JavaScript. I'm starting to figure out JavaScript. And then you're going to use it for bot brains as well. Yeah, I would imagine that that's why Samuel created it that way, was for pushing it to a bunch of bots. Okay, and then I can upsert this and set its value to banknet. That should do it. So that should do the check-ins. So this is BankBot. I don't know what I'm going to call this action yet, but that's essentially the BankBot checking in. Maybe I should just call it bot check-in. So because I loaded it up here, I will have access to it from my other commands here, because I think one of the other actions I'm going to have to take now, I have to modify my balance. So let's start with balance. So balance is going to be the sum of all of these. Actually, I think I have a status here too, right? Status up. Oh, that's something else I should do. What I should do actually is, as I check in a bot, that bot goes, I'm good. And then I should have my script check all the other entries, and if any of them are too old, mark them as offline. Oh, I think that's literally what you just said, Flux. You keep track of each consecutive time, and the bots all check each other's as well, and if they're not on time, the count gets reset, which is how you detect if they're offline. Oh, you have a consecutive count. Do you use that consecutive count for anything other than keeping track of their online status? I was thinking just having an up and a down, if the timestamp for the other ones. So I would do so what I'd actually do here is I would go through all of them. So let let other bots info of bank bot info. Your bots do different things depending on the count. Oh, you have them like doing other things. You have them do other things while they check in. That's interesting. So they have like secondary tasks other than just being banks, which makes sense, right? Because that's a lot of wasted user space. I'm not there yet, so I think I'm just gonna have up and down for now. You're gonna add coming in, I think, here. Yeah. So I think if I do that, or do I want to do object.keys? Because I need the I actually need the bot's name, which is the key value. Which are all the key values? Most of them are just dumb and send GC, but some of them do extra stuff. Yeah, I might enhance this to do that later. Okay, I'm gonna save these. Okay, so I'm gonna take a quick break here while we break for an ad to stretch my legs and use bathroom and stuff. But I'll be back in a few minutes. All right? Okay. All right, I am back. Thank you for your patience, everybody. Okay. So, yeah, so I think this should get all the keys. Other bot, I think maybe I should just call this other bot because its info is not really there. This is the other bot name. Let's be wordy, right, George Star? Don't be afraid. So, other bot name. I should be able to go bank bot. Sorry, that's not right either. This should be banknet. There we go. So banknet at other bot name dot timestamp. Okay, so if the timestamp minus no, if date dot now minus maybe I should grab the timestamp before I do all of this so I'm not doing a ton of date.nows. Let now. So if we do now minus the timestamp is greater than, is there time spans in JavaScript? Man, the screen is so bright. Date.parse, I guess. That's not quite what I want. These are all like get minutes. I have to do it from the date. That's like the minutes portion of the date. Okay. Good old raw milliseconds. Yeah. So I'm gonna have to do, let's bring up calculator here. I'm surprised actually I don't have, whatever, doesn't matter. So I want, you can't see a calculator, but it's there. So, I want, there's 60, right? Times 1,000. That's 1 minute. Times 30, I guess, is 1.8 million milliseconds. 1.8 million milliseconds. Okay. So if more than 1.8 million milliseconds, this is 30 mins. Then I want to set this user's status to down. I'm going to leave this as a separate date.now because some number of milliseconds could elapse in there. I guess it doesn't really matter. Okay, I guess I don't need this curly brace. And I probably don't need this one because I don't think I'm doing anything else there either. So I do all the other bots, including this one, I guess. I could mark this one down and then I'll mark it up right away afterwards, which is fine. And then it'll update all of them in the database. Seems okay. Let's comment this. Update all the bots' status. Too many plurals. Update the status of each bot. There we go. That's better.
Scott Pilgrim! Hey!
Scott Pilgrim, my goodness.
Chaos Theater.
Okay. Maestro? That's a very long name, Maestro. I'm gonna call you Maestro if that's okay. Thanks for follow and welcome in. Thank you. What is this? Unix? If you don't, do you know what this is? It's not Unix. It is a game. It's called hackmud. I'm assuming that you... maybe you did just wander in here randomly. And you're like, what am I looking at? This is nonsense. Yeah, this is just JavaScript right here, what we're looking at. I'm working on making a botnet. In case you're not aware, it is a game about hacking and writing scripts in JavaScript and other stuff to do all kinds of crazy nonsense. Hack NPCs, hack other players, defend yourself against other players, that kind of stuff. It's you can do a lot of playing without knowing how to program, and I've seen a lot of people, like I think Raven, who was in here earlier. I don't know if Raven's gone lurking, but Raven is learning how to program just based off the game. You thought it was some beautiful Unix console. No, it is very pretty though. But no, this is the game. This is the game's command line. What it actually looks like is this. So you can see there's like a chat section over here. You have a scratch pad and you have like some of your stats, but I have like a split screen setup for streaming so that we can see what's going on in the game and what's going on as I'm coding my JavaScript script, which is going to run inside the game. The game allows you to upload JavaScript to it, and then it can run it and different things. So what we're working on right now is a little bit, this is my first dive into a distributed botnet inside the game. Some of the more advanced players have them. Flux here in chat has got a similar botnet for their banking. So I'm just kind of trying to make my own, take my own spin on it, with some help from Flux. Flux has been giving me some inspiration. So right now, what did we do here? So we've cycled through all of our other bots in the dictionary. If any of them haven't checked in 30 minutes, we're going to mark them as down. Then we're going to mark ourself as up with the latest time with our current balance. And then we are going to set all of them up in the database. Okay. So that should do a check-in. And I should be able to test this. I should be able to test this. Well, I don't know if it needs testing. Well, no. Now what I should do is I should go and I should get a bot, and I should slap it onto my actual bank user that I have. Why not? Why not? This will be my first time getting a bot script running. So, yeah, market. Let's go to the market and look. Browse. Their name was Cronbot, right? Cronbot. We'll look at the V2s and see what they've got up there. Oh, higher rarity though. Rarity 2 maybe. 500k. That's not bad. There's one for 499, 500. I don't know what is a good or bad Cronbot yet upgrade, because I haven't used one before. So this one is oh, it's a very low cooldown. Goodness gracious. 1012. The one we were looking at before was oh, I suppose I could add this to my filter, right? What do I want? Cooldown. And my cooldown could be less than, and then what? Less than 1,000? Let's see. Oh, they're all... Oh no, there's some here that are less than 1,000. Wow, that's surprising. So 1,000, that would be under 2 minutes, 20 minutes. 10 minutes is 600. So if I had one going, let's see, if I had one going at 600, less than or equal to 600, probably? No? Maybe it doesn't do less than or equal? Maybe the V2s don't go down that low. 900? Okay, so they do go to 900. So that would be 15 minutes, would be 900. So that's something else that I need to do is when I withdraw money, I want the balance to update right away across my whole botnet. I don't want to wait for the next polling because I could hypothetically overdraw. Well, it wouldn't work, but because the GC wouldn't be there, but it would overdraw it. The cooldown reduces and the cost increases. So you have one blue V2 and a bunch of green V1s. That's a good point, right? Because the more frequently it runs, the more it's going to cost me. So if I had one that runs every fifth, well, let's do the math on it. You know what? I am going to add calculator in here because we keep doing math. So let's just add the calculator for a sec here. Beep, 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 beep. Okay. So, I don't need to be over top of absolutely everything, though. Hold on. Let's put it over top of hackmud. Okay. Put it over here. There we go. Okay, so if it let's say it runs every 15 minutes, right? That's 24 times 4. So it's going to run 96 times a day. It's going to cost, let's say for example here, it costs 50,000 GC. It's going to cost me 4.8 million GC per day per bot. That's kind of pricey. It's going to cost me 4.8 million. Could I recommend you some books for junior level? C#? Like you're looking, Meister, you're looking specifically to learn C#? The V1s have a much more affordable daily cost. So Flux, I'm trying to figure out if I need to actually if I have a central user that's managing all the balances, like money only ever leaves or enters my botnet from my central user. So my central user is the source of truth for the balance in my whole botnet. I guess unless a bot in my botnet goes down because it was breached, right, and it lost its GC. Well, let's look at the V1s then. Let's look at the V1s. So let's minimize that for a sec. Whoops. I deleted too much. Rarity. Let's look at rarity 2. V1. So Maestro, you already have experience with JavaScript and TypeScript coding, but want to do work in web and C#. So I'm in the opposite position because I have done C# for like, I don't know, 15 years of C# and then a bunch of other programming. I've been doing programming for a really long time. and I have, this is kind of like really me learning JavaScript, so I'm kind of in the opposite position as you. So as far as recommending resources for C#, I don't know if I have a book that I can recommend, because I learned from college. So like, I'm sure that I have a college book around here somewhere, but I have no idea where it is. I haven't read a book so for C# since school, which is like yeah, like 20 years ago. So what I would recommend, based off of other things that I've learned, so I would recommend getting, like, if they have a C# for Dummies book, I would recommend grabbing it, because I have found the Dummies books are really good at explaining stuff. Like, a while ago, when I was out of work, like maybe like 10 or 12 years ago, I was between programming jobs, and I was considering doing a move to IT, and you have to learn a whole bunch of hardware stuff, and I got a Dummies guide to the IT exam, like the Microsoft one specifically, and it helped me to pass the Microsoft cert on my first try. So if you have any books for that, I knew there was a C# reference guide that I had. It was like a big blue, super thick book, but that was more of like how to look things up, and it's the one I have is probably crazy out of date. So Flux, this is why you mark a user offline if it doesn't check in. Yeah, so if it goes down, that makes sense. Yeah, that does make sense. So Maestro, you already do some projects, but everybody says that you need some theory for that. So you need theory. So you already do some C# projects, but people are saying that you need more theory. So what kind of, so who's everybody in that statement, first of all? Like, when you say that everybody says that you need more theory, who? Like people that are interviewing you for jobs, or like your friends, or just like random people on Reddit, or like what? Yeah, Joestar learned Blazor server side from YouTube. Yeah, like, you know, when you're a junior developer, if you can show that you are dedicated, middle plus community guys in your chat, so you don't need theory. I'm going to tell you that right now. I did not go to computer science. I went to a software engineering instead. So I didn't get all the algorithm stuff. I got essentially a class on entrepreneurship. I got a class on, like critical thinking. I got a class on, I had a bunch of math. Like, I had 3 math classes. I had a stats class. And then I got like 6 or so crash courses in 6 different languages. So I learned PHP. I learned, this is 20 years ago, mind you. So I learned PHP. I learned Perl. I learned Visual Basic. I learned C++, C#, Assembler. Actually, I learned more than 6. I got HTML in there. And I think I had the HTML JavaScript work together. But the point was to teach you the general principles, the foundation of functional programming. And then the language is just a tool. The language is not important, right? What's important is figuring out how to think about a problem in your head and break it into small little pieces, and then getting the computer to do each of those small pieces in the proper sequence to give you the answer, right? And like how I've been doing this in JavaScript, I know how to solve the problem. Like, I'm thinking about, how do I just solve the problem from, like, English language point of view, or, your language of choice, but like what they would call pseudocode. So you write down what you want just in plain words. Then you convert each one of those steps into the instructions in the language that you want to use. And that is where the books, that's where the YouTube, the Stack Overflow, that's where those things are going to help you learn the language. But at a junior level, ideally, the person interviewing you for that position shouldn't be expecting too much from you from a technical performance point of view. What they should be looking for is that you can learn new things, that you're going to work hard, right? And that you can think about problems and break them down into small steps. You don't need to know C# to write C#, right? Just do it. Just pick something, maybe even pick a program that you've already written in another language and write it again in C#. And you will learn. You'll be like, oh man, I don't know how to do how do I do a dictionary, right? How do I do a JSON object in C#? And you can figure that part out. How do I do a loop in C#? The class and object-oriented programming, I would just take like a LinkedIn course, or there was a website, but I mean these things cost money, right? But as far as books goes, I would do the C# for Dummies if you can find it, and I would do an object-oriented programming, just in general. Try to find a book just that teaches you object-oriented programming principles, and between those two things, you should be good. You should be good to just get up and running. And this is what I find. So I'm like a senior software engineer. Like I spent some time in the last job doing team lead development as well. So like I flirted with management positions, and I decided I want to keep writing code, so I did not pursue that path. I'm pretty close to as far as you can go while still writing code primarily, because if I go up higher, I'll stop writing code and I'll start doing design documents and shit that I hate. But you just write it. Mid-level developers always overestimate how much shit a junior needs to know. They always do it. They always think, oh, you need to know all the things that I know to be a junior. And it's like, yeah, but you're not a junior. You're higher than junior. You just go easy on yourself. Don't expect that you're going to become a C# expert without working in the field. It's not going to happen. Just jump in. George Starr, the last C# book you had was in college. It was Murak, and he fully based the book off of the Microsoft documentation. Yeah, I mean, like, I had a C# reference book that was basically just like a C# dictionary. That was just like a huge thick book, like this big, like this thick, and it would just like all the commands. It was nuts. And that was like C# 4 or something stupid like that. It was super old. Probably older than 4. Did that answer your question? I kind of just like went off on C# development in general, Maestro, but hopefully that gives you like, ignore those people. Just write it. Just do it. Just pick something. Just write it. And then when you're done that program, do another one and write those things and put all these things on your personal GitHub. And then when somebody asks you in an interview, have you written any C#? You can just show them, I've tried. This is what I've done on my own. And it's going to look ugly. Of course it is. You're a junior. Every junior. When I was a junior, I wrote the ugliest shit ever. It was horrible. Like Thor says this all the time. If you can look back at your old code and say, that's gross, how could I have written that stuff? It means that you've grown, right? So just do it. Just do it and save it somewhere. That's something that I wish that I had when I was a junior, was a public Git, because that stuff public repos didn't really exist back when I was starting out. So all of the little experimental toys that I played with and all the little apps that I made just for fun, they're just poof. They just vanished. If I had a GitHub, I would have been able to create a portfolio for myself that would have helped me get into the industry sooner. So that would be another recommendation. A lot of the theory and knowledge, Jorstar, about functions you learn by doing. Run a similar function 10 different ways and benchmark it. Yeah, that's a very good suggestion too. C#, there's a lot of different ways to write things. Actually, in a lot of programming languages, there's more than one right answer. But sometimes some of the answers can be more right than others depending on the usage. And you can learn those things by doing what Jorstar suggested as well. Absolutely. Yeah, just do it. Just do it. Grab some books. Go to Indigo or whatever, Barnes and Noble. Just grab some books and just read them. Just read them in the store. Just go sit down in the store and just read them and see if you're learning anything, and then do them. Do the stuff. If the book has an exercise in it, do the exercise. Where are there more job opportunities for C# in the EU or US? I have no idea. I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know. I'm in Canada. I work for an American company, but you're in Germany right now? I have no idea. I know the big companies, though, the really big software companies, will hire internationally because they'll have offices on every continent, so they usually won't care too much about that. A junior has a better chance in Germany. Yeah, I would agree. If you were a junior in North America, I'd say you'd have a harder start, 100%, because you're going to be dealing with more immigration competition, right? But in Europe, you'll probably be dealing with less than that. Though I've heard right now the big problem is that a lot of EU countries are now outsourcing their stuff to like Spain, because their cost of living is way lower than the rest of Europe. So it can be tough. It can be tough. But I would say you're probably okay in EU, but I don't know where the job opportunities are. A lot of them are remote, at least. So, though for junior, I would actually recommend for junior that you not take a fully remote job. I work fully remote and I love it. But if you were a junior, I would suggest you work in the office for the first few years, because you need to be soaked. You want seniors sitting all around you, talking senior programming things over your head, and you will absorb that knowledge just by sitting next to them. You want that atmosphere. Don't trick yourself into thinking that you can become a senior developer, that you can go from junior to senior working from home full time. It won't happen. It won't happen. You got to get soaked in it, or you got to have a really good mentor. You also agree with Thor about Scrum? I must have missed that one, Joestar. What are Thor's thoughts on Scrum? So for balance here, what we can do is basically the same loop here, except in the loop we're going to have a total, I guess. It's going to equal 0. Total is going to be plus equal to banknet at other bot name dot balance, and then we're going to return. Well, I don't have lib in here. Lib is going to equal to fs.scripts.lib, and we're going to do lib.toGCStir total. That should do it. That it's a waste of time and flow. So Scrum is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used well or misused. It can be used to help people, it can be used to hurt people. I think that people who see Scrum as a magic bullet are wrong. Not a magic bullet. I like certain things. I've worked in shops that have done Scrum and not done Scrum. My current one does Scrum, but it's kind of like Scrum Light. Like, we don't have Scrum Masters, but we do have sprints. We do have stand-ups. Well, virtual stand-ups. I like the virtual stand-up. But it has to be well moderated, right? At the beginning of the day. Well, that's why you do them at the beginning of the day. You don't have a stand-up in the middle of the day. That would absolutely break your flow for 100%. But having a stand-up, you start your day, and everyone's like, hey, where are you in your project? Any blockers? Anything you want to share with the team or ask on the floor? Any problem that you're stuck on? Just spitball ideas for 5 minutes. You're good? Okay. And anything that takes more than 5 minutes, you break off into another meeting afterwards and you go and work on that yourself. So Maestro, you're from Russia. You've just noticed a pure difference between Russian and German job vacancies. German vacancies often have complex and tough requirements, but then in the job, many of these aren't needed. Well, I can tell you for sure that's not just a German problem, because North America has the same kinds of problems where it'll be a junior position, and they'll come in and they'll ask you stupid questions. Google and like Amazon, right? They are notorious for this. They ask really, really, really hard questions. And then if you don't know the answer, they're like, okay, goodbye, right? But what they should be doing is watching how you try to solve an impossible question, right? And even if you get a part answer, or even if you get you wrong answer, what they should be paying attention to is the attempt that you're making, right? They should be paying attention to how you approach a problem, the kinds of questions you ask the interviewers about the problem. But like, it's hard to say, like which country in the EU, you have a whole lot more freedom. In Canada, I'm stuck here, right? Like I can either go to the US or I can stay here, and I'm not going to the US. Nothing against my American counterparts, but I like my healthcare. But like I don't have the mobility, because my mobility up here in Canada is just between the provinces, and they're all basically the same, or they're like abandoned, like Manitoba and Saskatchewan, the prairies, or like middle of Canada's got nobody living in it. It's got no jobs. So in the EU, you've got a way more freedom to move around if you're the kind of person that likes moving around. So it's hard to say. I guess I can't give you any advice on specific country to country stuff, because I just don't know. Jorstar, the problem when you're in a Scrum team, people started between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. So, and then you did the meetings at 9 a.m. Yeah. It's hard to say, right? Teams have... I think what Scrum needs is Scrum needs to adapt to remote working conditions, because like you've said, this flexibility in hours has... I mean, it's always been there a little bit, but it's definitely become more flexible. And Scrum hasn't been rewritten to adapt to that. So thankfully, like, you can work somewhere where the manager, the project manager, or the Scrum Master, if you have one, adapts. But it's without remote work, yeah. But it was more rare, right? It was more rare to have such distributed start times. Not unheard of. Like pre-COVID, I had a job where I started at 7 in the morning, and we had our stand up at like 10, because that's when everyone was in. And yeah, it does kind of interrupt you a little bit. In the EU, the requirements are less of a requirement in the US, and honestly, in the EU, you're probably going to get treated better. The US might be the worst first world country to be an employee, because they just chew people up here. They just chew them up. You've almost finished reading your first book, but you still don't know how you should remember all these basic classes. ADO.NET and serialization. I think you should be developing an app microservices. Just a matter of practice and time. 20 pages a day, 600 a month. So I wouldn't really worry so much on getting through a book as you are getting through a project. Pick a project, right? Like if you want to build a website with a basic shopping cart from scratch, and you want it to all be C# on the back end, like, you should just do that. Skip the parts of the book that don't apply to the problem. Yeah, exactly what Jorstar just said. Pick the project, then see what you need out of the book. and do those parts to get your project done, because a completed project in your portfolio will be better. And no developer needs to know how to do everything unless you're working at a startup or you're making your own app from scratch. Like, you just don't need to do that, and you don't need to memorize everything, because we have the internet. Everyone is terminally online all the time. If you don't know the answer to something, you can look it up. And just be okay with the fact that you may get asked a question in an interview and you won't know the answer, and they will say, okay, well, goodbye, right? And that was the deal breaker for them. Go home, look up that answer, learn how to do that thing. Learn it. Don't just memorize it. Learn that skill, right? Learn the thing that they wanted to know. Then take that knowledge to the next job interview. That's the best advice that I can give you. You can't guarantee that somebody's going to give you a job. Unfortunately, right? There's no guarantees there. Anyway, so we were looking at these crons, these cron bots. This one's 3,000 and only 20,000. That's way better. 3,000 is 3,000 divided by 60 is 50 minutes. This runs every 50 minutes. That's a little slow. I want like 30 minutes. What's 30 minutes again? 2,000? 1,200? I want 60 times 30? 1,800? I want 1,800. Let me minimize this. I want like... Just give me like 1,800 exactly. There's a bunch of them. They're all V2s though. Maestro, about the office work, you're not drawn to the remote work anyway? Okay, well that's good. That's good then. Thank you very much for your advice, for advising you. Yeah, it's no problem at all. Like, I hope that my advice helps you, Maestro. I'd be very happy to hear that my advice was helpful for you. And yeah, just stick to it. Just stick to it. I've seen junior developers give up and switch fields. And that's okay too, right? You might get into it and figure that it's not for you. That's all right. But just do it. Yeah, just do the project. Joestar, one of your interviews at PHP, you had not used PHP in a while. You had to do the code, do a code interview. You had to write a page that connected to an API and then display the data. When they went over why I used one function over another function that would have been faster, my answer was simply, I didn't know that it existed. Yeah. They look at what your capabilities are. And like, I've been interviewed by like managers, and they ask me to write code that does something, and I'll write the code, and they will look at it and they will go, no, your answer was wrong. Because they're not a developer. They had the code written down as the answer, and the code that I wrote wasn't the same as their answer, so it was wrong. And thankfully, there was a developer in there that was like, let me see, and said, no, this will also work. But, you know, there's only so much you can do. You will get interviewed by people who know what they're doing, like what Joestar has said, where they will be like, why didn't you use this? And you will say, I didn't know it existed. Just be honest. Don't bullshit. People hate being bullshitted to, especially when they're trying to hire someone. Just say you don't know something. You're a junior. You are not expected to know anything. If anyone is expecting you as a junior candidate to know everything, just run. Just get out of there. Don't do it. All right, gotta see. What am I looking at here? 1,800. 1,800. These are in seconds, right? Like, am I going crazy? These are in seconds, right? 1,800 seconds divided by 60 is 30 minutes. The 30-minute ones are expensive. They're so expensive. 63,000 per 30 minutes. is 120,000 per hour. 63,000 times 2 times 24 is 3 million a day per botnet. That's still so much, but that's 30 minutes. What do I do? Flux, what were you saying earlier? Which one were you saying you were using? You have one blue V2 and a bunch of green V1s. I should look at what the green V1s look like again. Cronbot V1. Rarity 2. What does this one look like? Jorster, during the time at the company, you had an applicant that simply said, because I want to use this and not the other one. Oh yeah, that's not a good enough answer. Why'd you use this over the other? Good answer would be because of this very specific situation, and this would do better than this. That's a good answer. Saying, because I didn't know that the other one that you mentioned existed. What does it do? Right? That's a good answer too. Saying, because I don't want to. Bad answer. But that's an attitude problem and not a skill problem, right? Attitude is more important than skill. Cooldown here. This one is this one's 2976 divided by 60 is 49 minutes. The V1s can have a lot of variance. Find the lowest cooldown. But don't I want the lowest cooldown and the lowest cost? Or are all the V1s going to have a lower cost? Because they're V1s. Like if I looked for a V1 of rarity 2 with a cooldown of like less than, I guess let's just pare it down here, less than 2,000, nothing. Less than 2,200, nothing. Less than 2,500, 2. But these ones are like 2485. That's way more than 30 minutes. How are you managing to do this, Flux, and marking them as dead after only 30 minutes? That's 41 minutes. Maestro, have I ever tried ADA language for games? I have not. Nope. I don't think I've heard of ADA. I know a lot of people are doing games in Go and GoBot and Rust recently. You made a mistake. You actually marked them off after an hour? Okay, that makes me feel a lot better. I thought I was going crazy. Okay. So this one's 41 minutes. I'm just going to get this one, I think. Actually, let me do the math on it. 41 minutes. Oh, God. Now I have to know how many minutes are in a day. 3,600? No, that's not right. Fuck. 24 times 60 is 1440. 1440. If I do times 60, that gives me the seconds. 86,000 seconds divided by 2485. So this will run 34.7 times per day times 21,000. 730,000 a day. That's far more reasonable. So I think I'll pick this one up. What was this? FC2 VAN. Up. Okay. How should you allocate your time and manage your ADHD during studying? I have that issue also. It'd be useful to hear how I deal with it. How do I deal with my ADHD? That's a very big question. So only now that you can work more times per day but with less focus. One problem. So how people deal with ADHD is it's a personal problem, and I don't mean like personal like it's private and you're not allowed to talk about it. It's the solution that works for one person may not work for another person. So what works for me might not work for you. But that being said, right, I do not take medication for my ADHD. I'm not on medication. I've had bad experience with medications, with ADHD medications and their side effects. They don't work for me. I have found that there are some things that help me to stay focused, and there's some things that hurt my focus. And what you really have to do is you have to try to avoid the things that hurt your focus. You have to find out what distracts you, right? When you get distracted. Are you thinking about a video game, right? A lot of people have that problem too. I was playing hackmud today when I should have been working. Not all day or anything, but like it was distracting me in the background. You have to have the discipline, right? You have to cultivate discipline internally and just like be like, I'm not going to do this. You have to, it's a sort of superpower. So the way that my ADHD could be considered a superpower is that I can work in very short bursts. So when my focus drifts, I've learned to just let it drift. When I'm at work and I'm like, I can't pay attention to this thing, and I don't have a deadline driving me. Deadlines are a good motivator for me, personally. If I have a project that's due by the end of the week, I work my ass off to get it done because I want it done on time. I do not like when my projects go over time. So there's a sense of pride. So you got to take pride in your work, and you want to make sure that you have a reputation for someone that can get things done, and you get things done on time, right? You need to have that desire internally, because if you don't care that something is late and that people are going to be like, oh, Maestro doesn't never gets their projects done on time, so who cares, right? And if that doesn't bother you, then you're not going to be motivated to focus. So you have to be the kind of person that you're like, I want to get this stuff done, but I'm weird and I'm quirky and I run on a strange schedule. That's fine, but you always get it done. What I have ended up in a position where I work in short bursts, right? I work at strange times, but my projects always get done. So the superpower part is that I probably spend less total amount of hours in a week working and focused than someone else on my team without ADHD, and I get the same amount of work done as them. So if I could focus, right, and this is where people get attracted to the prescription medication that can help you focus all the time, is you will be more productive than a normal person or a neurotypical person, right? You will be more productive than them. But I have found that burns me out. I don't want to be more productive. I want to be just as productive, and I want that extra time to be mine, right? Because it is a disability, and it is hard to focus on things outside of work too, and focus on conversations when people are talking to you, and focus on maintaining your friendships, and focus on maintaining your hygiene and your exercise routines and your diet, right? It is a disability, and so you shouldn't let people take advantage of your disability to make money off of you. That's the way I see it. So you just focus on yourself, right? Focus on yourself and learn to just like give yourself focus time, then give yourself rest time. And you just got to bounce between those two and just make sure that you learn how to find your pace, right? It's like running a marathon, but you're doing it in sprints. So you're going to get to the end at the same time as everyone else, but you're going to keep playing catch up, like rabbit and hare, right? The story of the rabbit and the hare. Joestar, you've used ADA for a Selenium bot or similar script? Wow. That's not, I mean, Selenium sounds, I've heard of Selenium too, but I don't have too much experience with that either. So in university, you have 8 different subjects and you need to pass them all. So preparing, you just switch them off and have less brain fatigue. For example, you have 4 math subjects in one semester. So that's a different topic, I think, because personally, I think that modern post-secondary schooling is way too much work. They're putting way too much work on students. There's just no way. I never had more than 2 maths in a semester, ever. I couldn't imagine taking 4 maths in one semester plus other courses. It would just cook my brain. It would just cook it. Also, I'm going to say something that might be a little controversial. You don't need a university degree to be a programmer. You don't need it. I didn't go to university. I've been working successfully in the industry for 20 years. Everything I've learned, I got a good start in a technical college, right? A technical college which is specialized. I took a 3-year course. I had a work placement. And then everything else I've learned hands-on by working in the industry. These people think they can go to university, and if they go for like 5 years into university, they'll come out with 5 years of work experience. No. Nope. In fact, a lot of the interview candidates, when I interviewed people who had just spent all of their time in school, they came out not knowing anything. They don't know anything. You try desperately to memorize stuff to pass an exam, then you move to the next course, and all that stuff just slowly leaks out of your brain because you don't have any time to use it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Joestar, at a company, you use Selenium to make sure the customer-facing things work properly. Physically clicking. Oh yeah, automation testing. That's where I heard Selenium. So as part of your CI/CD. The thing was, you wanted almost anyone to be able to write tests, like for the user experience people. So he made the scripts with an ADA type language. Interesting. So it must be like ADA must be very human interpretive language. I'm guessing then by that. So you can have like non-technical people write your ADA scripts. Yeah. Maestro, how it works for you? You can sit all day but simply have a feeling that your brain just doesn't work. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't. But there's other reasons other than ADHD for why you may have mental fatigue, right? So I think a lot of people with ADHD, in my experience, because they know they have ADHD, tend to over-blame the ADHD for other problems they have with focusing or with energy levels. What I have learned over my life, I'm 40. So what I have learned over a lifetime of ADHD is that you have to eat properly. You have to give yourself rest, right? You know, some people like Thor, they get rest by working, and that's fine, but don't feel like you have to work all the time if it doesn't work for you, right? I don't work all the time. I don't have the energy for it. I've been that person before and it burned me out. It's just not who I am. Thor likes to keep really busy and it keeps him very happy, and that's great. If it works for him, it works for him. So find what works for you. Eat properly, exercise, and go to sleep. Sleep. If you're not sleeping properly and you're not eating properly, your brain's not going to work, and it has nothing to do with your ADHD. You're just going to be mentally exhausted. Joestar, your script was like when you click on XX button and wait XX milliseconds, you should see XX. Yeah, that sounds like pretty standard, like UI automation testing. I think Windows has a lot of that stuff built in now. I was looking at those libraries briefly before I started my out of automation processing. I ended up going with like the WinForms library, but I was looking at the built-in. The code is literally when I click this and I wait this, I should see this. Yeah, that's I use something similar like that. The term is eluding me at the moment, but we use something similar like that for our end-to-end testing as well. Yeah, it's very similar structure like that, but the developers just write it. We don't have a non-technical person doing that. Okay, so I have a bot brain here, which means that I need a bot script, I think, right? How many script slots do I have on this user? 1, and it's being used by my ATM script. So I'm gonna have to get another script slot as well. Just 1. Just the garbage slot. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I just need 1 slot for this. This. Okay. And then now I have to have a script that's called bot_brain, I think, right? I think that's how it works. Joestar, you had a script interpreter that wrote custom scripts on top of it to make good functions. That sounds pretty cool. I think we have, I think ours is, we have some third-party tool that does that, but... you should eat, but at the end of the day, because the brain just functions better only when it needs to collect some food. If that's what works for you. Physiologically, all human brains are driven by glucose. And without glucose, you will not be able to manufacture neurotransmitters at a sufficient level. So I don't think the motivation beats the physiology. That's psychology versus physiology. You need glucose. You need something. That's what you've learned from a neurobiological podcast. Well, do what works for you, right? Don't take someone else's word for it. Try it. We've got an ad coming up, so I'm going to step away for a few minutes while we get our ad break, and then I will be back, and we'll do a little bit more of this bot brain stuff before I end the stream. Okay, so just hang tight. Oh, I was muted. Sorry. I'm back. Thank you, Joestar. My eyes were just focusing on that audio mixer and being like, is there a bar missing? Anyway, thanks for waiting. So Joestar, you're saying sometimes you have to just target something by XPath? And I went, ugh, XPath. Yuck. I had to do a ton of XPath. XSLTs and XSDs, and nobody uses that shit anymore because it sucks. Alright, let's go, and we're gonna start. I know I can make the bot brain script above this, but we're gonna make it just here for now, just while we're testing. So this is gonna be called botbrain, I guess, .js. It is going to call, oh, actually the xylib.bank script needs to be updated first. And withdraw and send aren't going to do anything, so I'm going to comment them out. Let's get that upped first. Okay. Oh, and shifted. Okay. And then switch back to my bank user. Okay, so let's look at this. I'm gonna need probably some of these things as well in the bot brain. I'm probably gonna need lib, fs.scripts.lib. Joestar, when you have front-end devs that only use classes and none of them are unique and you need a specific button, you can't find the button without the XPath. Ugh. Ugh, that sounds horrible. That sounds horrible. But that's the problem in the real world. See, and Maestro, this is the kind of thing that you'll find in the real world, is that once you get out there, nobody's doing anything by the book. Nobody's doing anything by the book. It's the difference between theory and practice. Is just no one writes a software book of how to maintain a 25-year-old piece of legacy software written by someone who's dead, right? Like nobody has that book. You just have to you just have to make it work. That's your job as a software developer, is to just figure out a way to get it to work. Then you can do it properly within the boundaries of like things like how much tech debt there is, how much time there is. Sometimes doing it the right way takes 3 weeks, but we only have 1 week. So you just got to do it the shitty way to get it done in 1 week. Then we'll put something in our backlog that says go back and fix this afterwards. Want to learn tons of money as a dev, learn COBOL. See, I keep hearing this. You want to know something funny, Joestar? I know COBOL. I don't know it, but I learned it. I learned it in college. It is very niche. It was only part of our course because our course was partially funded by a bank, by a Canadian bank. And so they wanted us to learn COBOL. It's funny, some of the languages like PHP were optional, right? Perl was optional. COBOL was mandatory because the banks wanted us to all come out of that program with COBOL in case we wanted to work at the bank. There's another problem though. It's a double-edged sword. So COBOL, they do desperately need COBOL devs, right? Because it's an old language, legacy software that was written in the 1970s, and everyone's retiring or dead, and they don't have anyone left to even rewrite it, because you have to be able to read the COBOL to write it again in like C, right? You need to still be able to read the COBOL, and it's weird. It's a weird language. The only problem though is they will attract you with a higher starting salary, right? But once you've been working there for 15 years and you're like, I want a raise, they're going to tell you, go work somewhere else. You want a raise? Go work somewhere else. Try to get money somewhere else. You can't go anywhere else because you're working at the only company in your whole country that's still using COBOL. So that's the problem. They will pay you more initially, but you'll get screwed later on. You get screwed later on. So it's a double-edged sword. I would say that probably the best thing to do is to diversify your technology portfolio. Joorstar, in the Netherlands, there was a group of schools that all had their heating system run on a DOS PC. That's weird. That's why you keep projects running. Yeah, I mean, like, you should be constantly... These banks screwed up, and they screwed up because they wanted as much money as possible, and they didn't want to spend a single penny rewriting their code, because it introduced risk. They didn't want to pay for all the testing to eliminate that risk. They didn't want to take the time that it would cost to pay people to come in to rewrite stuff that had already written, and they're like, why do I need to write it again? This one was already working. They did all that stuff so they could save a buck, and now they're screwed. So I don't really feel bad for them at all. In a bank system, it's a ton of risk to change systems. Yes, but you can mitigate that risk. People always say, oh, but it's risky, so why they don't want to change it because it's risky. No, you can mitigate the risk, but that costs money too. They don't want to spend any money. That's why they're banks. That's why they're banks. They literally just make money just sitting there. You give them your money, and they go and they take that, and they invest that money, and they go and make money off of your work. I think this is getting a little too close to being political. So, we're not going to talk about banks anymore. You know what bank we're going to talk about? The Bank of Xylox. The bank that I'm writing. Don't get you laughing. Yeah, well, blah. Banks. Gross. Anyway, learn COBOL if you want. Certainly, I think the headhunting price is going to earn you more money as it gets rarer and rarer and these companies get more and more desperate. But once you're in the door, you're going to be trapped. You're going to be specialized in a super, super archaic language. And the only people that want that language are the people you're already working for. You're going to get stuck. I don't think anyone's flying around the world in gold-plated jets programming COBOL for all these different companies all over the world. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You want a quick buck? All right, be my guest. But while you're learning COBOL and then working at the bank, making a really good starting salary with COBOL, you should also be learning Ruby at home. Learn another language and diversify. You should be contributing to a Rust open source project. Whatever, Ruby, I don't know. I'm not a front-end dev, but you get the point. Do something else. If you're going to do COBOL, please do something else. All right. So I've never written a BotBrain script before, so I think this just runs like automatically, right? So I think at the start, I just want it to call my bank script, and the bank script is, it's 501 characters. That doesn't matter. Anyway, it's going to call the bank script with an action of bot_checkin. So this is midsec, I think. Xylib.bank. It's going to call action bot check-in. I think that's all it's going to do. I don't even need characters for that. That's 114 characters. Right now you're good, Joorstar? Good, yeah. I wouldn't recommend getting into COBOL now if you're already established. I would absolutely not recommend that. It's easy though. It's just sore. It hurts your eyes to look at it. I think it's I took two languages like that. I took COBOL, I took another one called RPG, which stands for Report Program Generator. I think they were both fixed column languages. So on each line of your COBOL program, depending on where the character is, means something different. That's what makes it so stupid. You only do scripting for the most part, and you're the only actual dev in your team, so you come up with a lot of methods that they're not used to. Yeah, it's funny when you have to. I had a job like that once where they hired me as. They hired a developer, and they ended up hiring me. But what they wanted was a business analyst. And so they gave me this tool, and it was like. It was not a developer tool. I don't remember what it was called, but essentially you made like workflow charts, and each you would drag modules onto the chart, and each module would do something. So you'd have a module that's like rename file, and you have another module that's like copy file to second location. You have another one that's like parse file for something, and so you would have a document come in the top of the flowchart, and it would go through the modules. So you don't need to write any code. But what they would ask me to do is be like, hey, with these types of documents, we need to do all these things to it. One of the modules was a C# module, so you could just drop the C# module on there, open it up, and just write a bunch of C# code. So when the document comes in, it just does a whole bunch of stuff and then it comes out the bottom. So that's what I started doing. Except they were all mad because the other analysts and stuff, they couldn't read any of my charts, because my chart was just one module that did everything, but it did it faster and it did it better and it did it all in one spot. But they were like, why are you writing code? We don't want you writing code. And I'm like, you hired a C# software developer. What did you expect to get? And they were like, we wanted someone to do all of this business analyst stuff and make all the document maps. And I'm like, I think you guys might have hired the wrong person. So we ended up like, technically they laid me off. So, which was nice of them because I got a severance even though I'd only been working there for a couple months. So they gave me a severance. The manager was really nice about it. She was kind of felt bad because she had given me a job, right? I hadn't quit another job to take this job. I was unemployed at the time, so it wasn't that big of a deal to me. But anyway, so yeah, sometimes it's funny to work as long as they know that you're a dev. Then they can accommodate you wanting to write code for everything. But that's the opposite problem, I guess, is when you get hired somewhere, they don't even realize you're a developer. All right, so I think that's all I need for this bot brain. I've never used the bot brain before, so I'm gonna up this bot brain, and it does it just run? Do I have to wait like 40 minutes for it to run though? That's not gonna be a very good test. So if I go back to my other user, I should be able to do what happens if this has no results in it? I'll end up with an empty object, and then I will do each object in object.keys nothing, and it should spit out 0. So if I do xylib.utils, no, .bank, action, balance, yeah, 0 GC. Your position is system engineer? Okay, well that's good. So at least they know, Jorstar, that you're like technical. For the most part, they like the way that you think. There are some concepts that they never used and aren't used to. Yeah, it's funny, it's funny people don't like get, I think like being a programmer is about the way that you think more than it is your skill set, right? You have to have like a brain that problems like go into, and a solution, it like tumbles around, a solution comes out the bottom of it. It's like a certain type of brain that does that, and I think sometimes some of those people turn into mechanical engineers, some of those people turn into like, you know, scientists, and some of those people turn into blacksmiths or whatever, right? Software developers, systems analysts, right? Yeah, it's a very logical way of thinking. It's like programmatic way of thinking almost. So Flux says, yeah, I have to wait for it. If I do anything at all during the cooldown, the bot won't run until the next cycle. Okay, so I uploaded the script and then I left that user. So now I just have to sit here. It's brutal for testing. Well, I mean, I don't have to wait. I can just run that script myself, right? Just for now, while I'm testing it. I could run it manually. Yeah. So if I just do bot brain, done. It doesn't do anything else. Does it have to return a success or fail explicitly in order to work? Because mine doesn't return anything. I want a low cooldown but a high cost. I actually don't know what I have here, but it shouldn't require any retries. 2 retries. Not cost, retries. Yes, it's got 2 retries. Flux, do you know if if the bot brain script has to return, or Jorstar even? Do you know if it has to return a success or a failure in order to work properly? I should be able to call balance from here. Okay, so obviously that didn't work. I ran bot brain and then I ran the balance. So yeah, so something didn't work. So shit. Okay. You think it's fine if it returns nothing? Okay. All right. So I said that I was gonna stop closer to my actual stop time today because I've got this huge headache and I gotta get caught up on my sleep. So I think we're gonna stop here for now. We didn't actually do a whole lot of code today, did we? We did a lot of thinking. And we did a lot of talking about programming industry. So, but on Saturday, we will pick up where we left off here, and I'm probably going to poke around a little bit at just the structure of this and this object in the database, and just see if I can figure out because something's going wrong in here with regards to saving and then loading the object out of the database. I don't think it's a. Do I need to load the bot brain somewhere? Yeah, the bot brain is loaded on my bank user, but I ran the script manually here, and then when I asked for balance, nothing came out. Isn't it like sys.botbrain or something? Oh, I mean, it doesn't matter because the script doesn't work. So, like, it doesn't matter because the script doesn't work. So I have to figure out the check-in script. This section that I just wrote doesn't work the way that I want it to. It might have to do with the fact that it's my first entry in that database document, but whenever you run botbrain manually, it unloads your cron bot. So it did. Yeah. That's okay. It's not working yet. So my bank user is already hands off. It doesn't notify you, it just does it. Yeah. I mean, yeah, my bank user has always been hands off anyway. It's just been a lock stack and then all my GC, so. But yeah, that's good to know. I think for the testing, at least for the testing, like I can manually test it by running the bot brain, and then I just have to hope that doesn't it have to yeah, if it has an error, if your cron bot gets unloaded if 1, it has more errors than your retry count, and 2, you don't have enough GC. So I think the GC is not going to be a problem because it's going to be running on my bank net. So I think that should be fine. Errors also count as you just running a command. Okay. Yeah, so again, I'm not going to be running any commands on this user other than the cron bot. Right now it has the other script on it because it's my original bank. So I'm keeping that script there for now, so my other automation, I can still turn it on. Okay, anyway, yeah, that's it for today. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back on Saturday morning and do some more. And see if we can get this banknet up and running. And that'd be pretty cool if we can get that going. And the stuff that we learn here, or the stuff that I learn here, Flux already knows. Well, actually, it sounds like both of you already know a little bit about bots, but the stuff that I learn here will help me in creating other types of botnets to do more complicated things. At one point in our plan here, I have to, where is it? Think about defense, because I'm not really going to be participating in PvP much on my own. I'm not a big PvP person. But I will have to defend myself regardless, because my location will leak out there somehow one day, and I will have to try to defend myself. Some of that defending will be like with the botnets. I can just retire them. I can take that, I can move its GC out, retire it, replace it, right? So that's something that I could do. But sometimes I might have to just defend myself. Or I might want to defend myself because I don't want someone just beating me up, right? So, anyway. So that's what we'll get to that a little bit on Saturday morning. So that will be the next time I'm back for regular stream. I'm not sure what's going on tomorrow night yet, so I may or may not do a bonus stream tomorrow, but otherwise I will be back here Saturday morning, around 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. Am I gonna learn some bin mat? Bin mat, yeah, that's actually a good point here. I should put bin mat on here too. Bin mat? I know about it, I haven't seen it. I know a little bit about it, but that's it. So that's on our plan here. It's another thing to do. Finding it is a fun adventure. Finding it. Yeah, because it's like a virus, right? It's like spread through the mud like a virus. I think it's pretty interesting. For the lore, anyway. Okay, anyway, so that's it for tonight. I don't think we had any stupid typos. But then again, we didn't write very much code. So when we start writing more code...
Brando's got what that's great.
Oh.
Yeah, it's got electrolytes.
Thank you,
What
Joestar.
are electrolytes? Do you even know? It's what they use to make Brondo.
Yeah, but why did they use them to make Brondo?
Because Brondo's got electrolytes. So there'll probably be a stupid typo in here, so maybe we'll increment it right on Saturday when we get started. Alright. That's it for me for tonight. So thanks everyone for coming and hanging out. Flux, Joestar, thank you for your help. Raven, if you're still around, thanks for coming and hanging out. And Maestro, thanks for coming in and for the follow. I hope that you have some good luck there finding some material, Maestro, and I wish you good luck getting into the industry for C# anyway. It's good. I like C#. People have their opinions, but I like it. Anyway, have a great night or day or wherever you are. I hope that the rest of your week goes fantastically, and I hope to see you all again soon. All right? Have a great night, everyone. Take care.